Welcome to our Startup Ecosystem Expert Interview, Thailand edition. The purpose of this interview is to enable our international audience to learn in an engaging and down-to-earth format about different startup ecosystems around the world. Today, our focus is on the Thailand startup ecosystem, together with Matas, co-founder of Whatnot Startup Studio. I'm Jelte Wingner, CEO and co-founder of Founders Lair, and I will be the host of today's session. Welcome, Matas.
Hello. Good morning. Happy to be here.
Matas, please introduce yourself and what you do in the Thailand startup ecosystem.
So my name is Matas. I have been living in Thailand for the last 9 years already. I was working in Thai startup ecosystem ever since I moved to Thailand. At first, I moved here with some friends who were developing apps. So I was just supervising a group of developers. But eventually, I started different type of activities like startup incubation and acceleration. And I moved to Bangkok from the north of Thailand, from the mountains. And I started to work with local corporates in several different industries. And eventually we formed Startup Studio. So now we're building startups, we're incubating startups, we're consulting about startups. So anything about startups, we try to cater.
And where are you originally from?
I'm from Lithuania.
Okay, interesting. And what brought you to Thailand?
Well, I like to say this story. It's kind of an accident, and when you live here, you realize that many expats in here end up by accident. So I was studying in UK, I graduated, I got bored a little bit of UK, and I had some friends who just came to Thailand and they said, oh, join us, we're developing apps. Actually, till then, I had no idea about technology or apps because I was studying acting, so I was in the theater world. I was doing my stage productions. And I came to Thailand. I started to work with startups, and our plan was to actually go to Sri Lanka. But we started to work. We got some contracts. We got some customers, and we couldn't fly out. And we couldn't fly out, and we couldn't fly out. And then life picked up, So I just stayed. I just stayed in Thailand.
Yeah, sometimes these accidents are meant to be, right? That you end up in a place that you actually like. So tell us, why is Thailand a great place to start a startup?
Well, so I think there are a few factors that Thailand makes a great space to be in the first place, and not necessarily about talking about startups. I think, if we would compare the performance of Thai startups with other Southeast Asian countries, perhaps Thailand doesn't look that good to do a startup because there are not many real unicorns that coming out of Thailand compared to, let's say, Indonesia, Singapore, or Malaysia. However, I think that Thailand has probably one of the best infrastructures, to stay, to live in. So you have very good communication. You can reach any Southeast Asian or Asian country very fast. There are a lot of airports around the country. Very diverse nature and landscape, so you could enjoy mountains, you can enjoy beaches in like a couple of hours time. So it's a good place to be, and a good infrastructure. And surprisingly for me, was then I moved to Thailand, is that you have great facilities like science parks, co-working spaces all over Thailand. It's not only in Bangkok, so if you might go to the south of Thailand, somewhere closer to the borders, you can find great spaces, very affordable, to set up your team, to start working, have very reasonable price of living, comfortable environments, beautiful places, So for me, it's just the place itself. I think that also that Thai people are very curious about innovation. So it's a good place to test products. People are open for giving some feedback, trying out the technologies and new products. They're very pro trends. So if there's a trend, if a trend catching up, everyone is really jumping on that trend, and then you can really use it for your benefits. And another aspect is that actually around 8-9 years ago, Thai government released a lot of government funds that helping early stage startups. So there's many agencies who issue startup development grants. Some of them, are easier to get. Some of them are more complicated. There's always space for improvement, but there's a lot of happening in Bangkok, in Chiang Mai, in terms of startup networking activities and government support. So this is very interesting, especially if you're a very early stage, ideation stage. However, investment landscape is mostly focused towards CVC. So majority of the active funds are corporate venture capital, and there's a catch. There's always a catch, So this is maybe I'll shift the conversation towards some of the things that you should be aware of. There are also several angel investment networks. They're pretty active. And if we would think that Thailand is almost 70 million people country, startup ecosystem is not that big. So it's quite easy to know the right people, to get in touch with angel investors networks, get opportunities and chances to pitch. It's pretty convenient, especially in Bangkok.
What about growth startups? Is the capital there, or do startups have to exit then and go to other hubs in the region?
Right. So that's probably mostly CVC. Well, there is venture capital. And this is probably, if we're looking total overview of Thai startup ecosystem, the big problem is actually early stage funding from venture capital funds. There is some government grants, but they're not sufficient enough. They're not fast enough to issue the funds. Majority of CVC and VC are focusing at least Series A or further. So this creates this type of ecosystem where we don't see those unicorns because no one is nurturing the early stage startup ecosystem. These not in the really professional level.
So one follow-up question. A lot of creative talents are available in Thailand. How about tech talent? If you want to build a marketplace, you need developers. How's the access to technology talent and engineers?
Well, I think that just depends on what type of technology you want to build. But there is an issue with that in Thailand. So there's a lot of outsourcing happening to Vietnam and India. There is some local talent, but they're in very high demand. So again, majority of that talent goes to work for the corporate environments rather than focusing on the startups. As corporates have much better wallet basically to support the talent. So a lot of them are working for the corporates. There are several software studios, software houses that are developing various projects in here. And they're also competing with each other how to get that talent, so it's a big race in here. However, government is also issuing now smart visas that helps foreign talent to enter easier into the country and work here. So that kind of creates an opportunity for talent who would like to live in Thailand and have local work. I think it's a good time to look into this. It's much easier to get into the country, especially a high-end talent. Someone with higher education and specializing on deep tech type of solutions. There's a huge demand. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of work, and it's a great place to be.
That's a very interesting insight. I think this is also something common in the region and other countries in Southeast Asia where it's quite common. Let us dive a little bit into the next question. What's the most important thing or hidden rule that founders should know if they want to start their startup in Thailand or expand to Thailand?
I think that, there are many things to be aware of, but probably one of the key things I would like to suggest is do not underestimate the cultural differences. Really study before you get into Thailand or any other Southeast Asian country. You really need to study the culture. You need to understand how things work here. For many foreign entrepreneurs, it becomes like a huge shock. It's difficult to adjust and adapt to the working style, language barriers, and all the different cultural aspects. So it's really important to understand what's happening within the industry that you want to innovate in. Understand there's enough of talent in here, and how to manage local teams. And another thing is how to manage mixed teams. This is a common problem with growing startups. When you start to have let's say half of the team is foreign team and half of the team is Thai team. You need to really get ready for that. You need to prepare. It's doable, it's manageable, and I'm not blaming anyone. It's just that it happens. Difficulties, and you need to learn how to manage these mixed teams.
Could you give us an example of the cultural differences here in Thailand?
Well, this is a sensitive topic, to say. I think that working style is different. Commitments are different. If we would look into corporate landscape, for example, loyalty is pretty low. So people stay 1 or 2 years in the corporate environment and they leave with the knowledge and the skill set, and the network of the corporate. So similar in the startups. Okay, so I think that in general, I would like to start from Thai educational system, where is a big difference from Western educational system. And we tend to see that there is a different understanding about soft skill development, especially critical thinking. So when we are working in a startup environment, it's a very fast pace. You have to make quick decisions and you need to think for yourself. Often you need to wear multiple hats. That tends to become a problem. And it's not that talent is not capable. There are a lot of smart and educated people, but they're being taught all the time that you need to listen to what the elders say. And this is also a cultural thing, that you always need to listen to your teacher. You always need to listen to someone who is older than you. And that lack of critical decision-making, it sums up, and then the teams start to suffer. So you need to govern, you need to educate about the importance of soft skills, and help to develop that in your team.
Sounds a little bit with the hierarchy of South Korea or Japan in this regard, that they're always listening more to more senior people. So the older you are, the more respect you have to show. But in the startup world, this is often not necessarily the best way, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned already some of the struggles in terms of cultural management, how to manage Thai teams in this regard. But what are other challenges that you see for founders that are facing the Thailand startup ecosystem? So what are the struggles there?
Okay, so there are quite a few, I must say. It's not an easy to be an entrepreneur in here. It's not impossible. I see successful teams that are based here and are developing products for other markets, but to get into Thai ecosystem, into Thai market directly and build products here is a bit complicated. It really depends on the industry. So let's say food and beverage, agri-tech, traveling, maybe medical industries are a bit more open and flexible to innovate. But for example, fintech is very difficult. It's very controlled, and there's a lot of bureaucracy, and there is a lot of regulations that stops very interesting products to be developed in here. And that is part of the challenge in Thailand, that frankly speaking, majority of industries have monopolies inside, and these big corporates, they're controlling the full supply chain and route to the market. So to really get into this is very complicated, and mostly they are the ones who are holding the capital as well. So most likely they would become your investor as well, that eventually would just kind cannibalize you or acquire you in the terms that they are convenient with. So this is the challenge in here. You really need to know what industry you're getting into and do your research about what is available and where it's better not to step into, because it becomes too slow, too controlled. Also knowing your consumer. For example, I've been working in agri-tech for the last 4 years, where I've been building an agri-tech startup called Gaurai. And let's say majority of Thai farmers, the average age is 55 to 60 years old. So your technology or your innovation really needs to suit the lifestyle and the environment you're getting into. And in every province, you have different governance that you need to deal with, that you need to understand. So there's a lot of old school business development. You need to go and meet people face to face. Not necessarily everything is accessible online. You need to shake hand. You need to sometimes have a drink with those people, to really get into their communities. But once you gain their loyalty and trust, there is a big opportunity in there. So it's kind of a mix of modern technology and very old school type of just showing up, showing respect, spending time together type of relationship.
Building startups is a tough journey. It usually requires a lot of stakeholders to get a successful startup off the ground. Who are the people that you would say startup founders should know in Thailand?
Sure. As I've mentioned at the beginning, Thai startup ecosystem is not that big, not that grand. And, since my journey started like 9 years ago, I've been seeing these names all the time, and they're very supportive and helpful for the whole ecosystem. And one of these people is Mr. Amarit Charan Pan. He is a founder of Hubba, one of the first Thai startup ecosystem, and I believe he invested himself in more than 30 Thai and international startups in here. So he's a person to recommend because everyone knows him, he knows everyone. So it's a good start, if you manage to reach out to him, I would recommend. Another person is Nicha Swambong Lee. She is currently working in AWS as a venture capital business development manager. But overall, she's a great mentor. You can meet her judging in many startup competitions and events, networking events. She has incredible knowledge of Thai startup ecosystem, investment landscape, and not only Thailand, but all Southeast Asia. A really, really knowledgeable person. I recommend to reach out to her. Another person and friend of mine, her name is Opal Piaporn. She is a founder and CEO of Sema Labs, which is a software development house. But she's very active in networking community. So if you want some introductions, if you want to know who is who in Bangkok, she's a good person to reach out as well. There are several different communities as well. There's one active networking event called Asian Pillars. They're not only focusing on startups, but general business relationships and also cultural relationships. So they organize different types of events to invite people from different walks of life to communicate and chat. And a couple more things to mention is I would recommend to check KX Knowledge Exchange, which is an innovation center here in Bangkok, where we run incubators and accelerators, and we help businesses to enter into Thailand, legal support, funding, incubation acceleration, and it's part of King Mongkut University of Technology. And another one more commercial startup ecosystem is through Digital Park, which belongs to CP Corporation, but they do organize a lot of industry events, a lot of office space, and support available there as well. And perhaps then also I would recommend to reach out to my business partner, Danielevicius from Whatnot Startup Studio. We help to build startups as well.
So you help startups. This session is also about how we can actually help the ecosystem experts all around the world. So the last question is, how can the global community help you? What are you currently looking for? How can we make some useful connections or support you in your journey?
Right. So I think currently we're really studying what is the next step for Whatnot Startup Studio, because for the last several years, we've been focusing on providing services like startup as a service. So we work with corporates and we build startups for them. Along the way, we also build our own startups. And having this knowledge and experience, currently we are looking and reaching out to the businesses and startups outside of Thailand. We're talking to ecosystems in Japan, Singapore, Korea. Would also like to hear from European startup ecosystems and US businesses who would like to utilize Thailand as a platform to build products, to build new businesses, new startups in here, but not necessarily focusing only into Thai ecosystem. So we want to cater and support companies who want to build products, concepts, services, and utilize Thai infrastructure to do that.
Great.
Another thing is, if you want to enter Thai market, also we can help and support on that.
That's amazing. So if you're out there and you're actually looking on the Thai market, reach out to Matas. He's the person to go to if you want to know more and also to get connected to the right resources. Thank you so much, Matas, for this session. This was very insightful, and yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Happy to share my insights, and I'm looking forward for collaborations.